Since purchasing my Garmin Edge 1040 Solar 7 months ago, it's been what you might call a love-hate relationship. After the initial excitement of owning this new piece of cycling technology, I grew very quickly in the early days to hating it, and the Garmin habit of releasing new technology full of bugs and using early purchasers like me as unwilling beta testers. That's certainly how it felt after the first big ride I took it on in France last August.
You join me in not a very good mood because I've planned a nice route today. This is an area I really don't know very well. And my brand new Garmin has decided to play up. Screen's freezing constantly. Can't get it to follow the route. So after a couple of attempts to reset in my Garmin, it suddenly has sprung into life.
Following this ride, the problem persisted, and after consulting various forums, I found a file to upload to the unit to replace the software with an as yet unreleased beta version. This proved tricky because the problem was so bad the screen was freezing within 2 or 3 seconds of switching it on, and it took 23 attempts to have it working long enough for the new software to load. But really, I shouldn't really have ever needed to do that. Long story short is that these problems have actually never come back. So I've forgiven my Garmin, we've made friends, and I absolutely love using it. The nearest I get to this problem now, and it's definitely worth watching out for this, is when you power it off, your screen should be completely blank. But just on the odd occasion I've powered off and I'm left with this symbol on the screen. If you get this, it is not powered off. And if you just leave it, your battery will run flat very quickly. So a long press on the power button will put the unit into a reset and it will be switched off. You'll see a strange horizontal line across the screen. Don't worry, that's normal after this reset. There are several upgrades on previous Edge devices that are immediately apparent. It's just generally a more robust looking unit, with metal used in place of plastic, including the quarter turn mount here. There were examples of the all plastic version breaking off. A metal cover here for the charging port instead of plastic. And as with the latest version of the Varia radar, Garmin have entered the 21st century with a USB-C port. You can see here that the lanyard is fixed on the back compared to before where it went through the charging port area and interfered with closing the cover. Garmin completely revamped the user interface for this unit, giving us more colours, better contrast and using a different font, which all combine to give the best clarity of definition I've ever seen on such units. The faster processor is possibly the biggest improvement, meaning updates are rapid, there's little or no lag when scrolling a map, and probably my biggest previous frustration has been resolved. When going away from a planned course, I no longer have to go and have a coffee while the unit attempts to recalculate the route. For the solar version, there are 3 solar panels, top and bottom of the screen, and then a less powerful panel across the entire screen, which does make it slightly less bright than the non-solar version, but once you're using it, you don't really notice. So what about the benefits of solar charging? First, you have this screen available during a ride. It took me a while to find it at first, before I realised it's a separate data screen that you have to add yourself to your ride profile. The reality is though, that after the honeymoon period, yes, it's interesting to know how much your battery was boosted by the sun on a ride, but that's part of the ride summary that you get at the end of every ride. It soon became a screen that I never looked at on a ride. So yes, getting extra battery life through solar charging is great, but the data screen seems like a bit of a gimmick and is now switched off on mine. Throughout the summer, I was gaining 20 to 30 minutes on a 4-hour ride. This ride was a one-off though, with a huge gain. So clearly the benefit from solar charging varies on what part of the world you're in and what kind of weather you can expect. And you can get extra charge when not using it, but it does need to be switched on or in sleep mode. However, the gain's minimal because you're not going to leave it lying around in the sun unattended. You might if you're at home, but leaving it in the sun by a window just overheats the unit and you get a message telling you solar charging has been suspended. Solar charging contributes to the very bold battery life claim by Garmin. And as this is a big reason why some people will be tempted to purchase this unit, I'll cover this in length on this video, which is linked top right of your screen now, and also at the end of this video, so that I don't add loads more length to an already long video here. The key thing for me, regardless of what's claimed, I'm no longer in a panic because I'm about to go on a bike ride and I forgot to put my head unit on charge after the previous ride. I think we've all been there. A big reason for using a head unit is navigation. So improvements in this area are essential to make an upgrade worthwhile for most people. Well, I've already mentioned the better colour and contrast make for easier to read maps. The faster processor means map scrolling is more fluid and it helps you get back on course rapidly if you venture off it. GPS accuracy has been improved by including multiband GPS, which means you don't lose signal under a thick tree canopy, for example, or even places like this. So here we are indoors and it's acquiring satellites. And there we go, course found in spite of us being in the house. If you plot a course on Garmin Connect, you can now personalise this more by adding in a plethora of course points known as upper head points from this large list of categories, which you can then name yourself. You can see here I've added a cafe stop, a meet-up point and the start of a sprint to a course I've just plotted. And when following the course, you can choose to have audio turn-by-turn directions including street names, which doesn't just work with courses planned on the Garmin ecosystem. I get them on club ride routes that have been plotted by somebody else on Ride with GPS, for example.
0.0 feet continue to Thorncliffe Way.
And there you go. Turn-by-turn direction, which are sent direct to my phone. And as you can see at the bottom there, that little tab is an example of the swipe up ability that this unit has. And for this, it's just about turning certain things on and off that you either do or don't want to see. So I've got the course points switched on there, which are the personalized course points that I put in when I was planning the course on Garmin Connect on my laptop. A quick plea from me to you: if you get anything from watching this, please consider clicking on the thumbs up below and consider subscribing so you can see my back catalogue of videos. You need to have an account to do that, but don't let that put you off. It takes seconds to do. It also helps the YouTube algorithm to decide which videos to suggest to other cyclists, and I'll be really grateful if you help me out with that. Anyway, back to this video and probably my favourite upgrade with the 1040, which has since been enhanced again with the latest firmware updates, and that's the Climb Pro feature. It was available on previous Ed units, but Garmin have utilised the more advanced and faster processing of the 1040 to make it a more colourful and graphic experience. You can see quite a dramatic difference when we look at the climbs on the Cumbrian Cracker ride I did in November. On the 1030, the list of climbs on the route looks like this, and you click on an individual climb to see the profile. On the 1040, the list looks like this, so there's no need to look further to see the profile. This is what you see on the climb with the 1030. With the 1040, the variations in gradient are more apparent and clearly mapped out on this colourful display. The key information is also shown in a larger font so it's easier to read. And recent firmware updates have added a box above your position marker showing the current gradient, which frees up a data field at the bottom for something else, as I had the gradient showing in that box below. This gradient marker is also used in the general course elevation screen on your ride profile, as you can see here. There's quite a bit to the Edge 1040 specifically relating to those of you using power meters or thinking of doing so. And again, rather than extending this video, I've already covered this in a separate video, linked up right here and also at the end of this one. At the end of every ride, you get a detailed ride summary, showing more stats and information than you could shake a stick at.
What a strange phrase that is.
So you have time and distance, average and maximum speed, power data including power zone information, cadence and heart rate including your heart rate zones as well, nutrition and hydration, elevation data, tons of info if you have power pedals. Electronic shifting data, if you have this. And finally, the solar battery gain, if your 1040 is the solar version, which is not a great deal in a late November ride in the UK's Lake District, of course. Climbs, you have the climb information. So clicking on climb 1, for example, we get a graphic reminder of just how horrible it was. The climb info just serves to confirm this by reminding you that the maximum gradient was 26%. And then you can see your own personal performance on each of the climbs. So looking at the home screen of the 1040, you can see it's completely different to the previous screens on the Garmin Edge units. So at the top here, you have access to your various ride profiles. And then if you click on road, it takes you straight into that ride profile and any data screens that you have actually added into that profile. Just press the screen and then the little house to get back to the home screen. Immediately below that, it will have the last course that you added, so that if you've added a course in time to do a ride the next day, you don't have to go looking through the menus to find it. It's there right on the home screen. You just press the button, press the blue ride button to load it up. Below that then we have an area which Garmin have called the glances. Your history is basically just your history of your rides, which you've got access to through Garmin Connect anyway. On the navigation, as you can see there, you've got a real-time compass. Recovery time, that's basically because I did a horrible workout today, so that's telling me to put my feet up for 26 hours. Thank you very much. Weather forecast, should you want it. You've got a list there of the sunset and sunrise times if you want that information, and various other information regarding your training should you be using a power meter. You can add to these by clicking on the little pen mark down there. You can move them about and change the order, but then if you click on the plus, there's a few other things that you can add on there. But generally, you just put on there what you want to see. And that's Garmin 1040 Glances. Navigation's really good. Courses or just browsing the map, but you have here, if you've previously searched for something and saved it and you want to go back to it, it'll be there in recent finds. And then in the search function itself, you've got various categories: parks, bike shops, restaurants, attractions, etc., etc. So if you're out and about on a ride, don't know where you are and you desperately need something to eat, if you click on restaurants and all restaurants, and there you go, it's now telling you that you can just cycle up the road 1.37 miles and get some fish and chips. If you swipe the screen from the top downwards, you get into the area which is referred to as the widgets. So ride profiles, general settings, information there about GPS. Press that one there, you have the choice of the various levels of GPS, and this one here at the top is the one that's been added for the 1040, giving you the best accuracy on a multi-band basis. That's where you connect all your sensors. That's just saying it's connected to my phone. And then if you swipe left to right, you can actually set an alarm so that if you've left your Garmin on your bike and you've just sat slightly away from it to have a coffee, it will send an audible alarm to your phone to let you know that somebody's tampering with your bike. And if you use the Garmin rear light radar and camera, if I switch that on now, you'll see straight away the radar is connected and it's formed a light network. What that means, if you swipe down now, so there's your light network. You can choose on your Garmin here whether you want it to be flashing or switched off or whatever, and then moving left to right, This is the screen for the rear-facing camera, where you can choose on the fly to save a video clip or take a photo. If you press here, then you can actually set it to record on radar activity, or you could put it on continuous recording if you wanted to. And there you can change the resolution as well there. So that's the extra additional screens you can see if you install the camera. So a baffling amount of information at your fingertips before, during and after a ride. And if that isn't enough for you, there's always Garmin Connect IQ Store, where you can download third-party apps and data screens to add to your experience. With the 1040, Garmin have given access direct from the unit instead of having to do this online or on the app, although you can still do it that way if you prefer. In my unboxing video when I first bought this, I said there were big problems with this due to developers not having the time to make their software compatible with the new technology, but those issues are now long gone. So in summary, my early frustrations with the Garmin Edge 1040 are well and truly forgotten. This is a fantastic piece of technology, giving a mind-boggling amount of information. It might even seem too much information at times, but I think most people will ultimately narrow down their own setup, giving you exactly what you want to see. There is so much stuff available here. We can all have a different personalized setup to everybody else, but not missing out anything, because the available data Garmin have provided covers everything you can think of, presented in a colourful clarity never before seen in these units. As you can tell, I'm hooked. If I'm honest, I'd probably buy the non-solar version if I bought this again. It's slightly cheaper, a slightly brighter screen, and still has a really long battery life. What kind of weather you normally cycle in and how you would use the unit will be determining factors. I can see this solar version being ideal, for example, in a long multi-day event with no access to charging. But leave a comment below and let me know what you think. The video about Garmin's bold battery life claim for this unit is here. The one relating to using power meters with it is here. And click on this yellow logo please to subscribe if you haven't already. Happy cycling, and I'll see you soon.